All right, buddy.
Yeah, I am.
So AJ, we go back a long way. I'm gonna say, I want to thank my sponsors. I got a couple sponsors now on the Carlucci Show.
Sure.
Have a Good Day Cafe over in Madison, New Jersey, 50 and a half Main Street, Madison. The George Ubertacchio. If you want the best coffee in town, you want to just hang out. Hang out with George. He's there from 9 to 1 o'clock. Chaffee's Restaurant. Joey Chaffee was my first guest. He helps all the first responders during all this crazy shit we're going through. The Wonder Bar in Asbury Park. Debbie DeLisa. Buco Couture. Carmen Buco. And the Kim D. Posh. We all know her from the Housewives of New Jersey. So I want to thank those guys for supporting me. More to come. AJ, I love you. You called in on in 2015. We had a 2-hour show, like I was just telling you before we started.
Yeah.
And we bullshitted. We had a great time. And then what did I do? The second time you called me, I went on to I Googled you and I started telling you things. And you're like, dude, that's wrong. So we got in a little fight and it ended. It wasn't that good.
Yeah, because Wikipedia is all bullshit. Wikipedia had me dead a few years ago.
I know.
About Wikipedia. It's crazy.
So fuck that.
Yeah.
I'm not getting into
Yeah.
it. I mean, I'll let everybody know. Everybody pretty much, knows who you are. There's a lot of people were excited that you were going to be on the show. You do a ton of things. Obviously, I'm not going to get into all the things you do because I want to talk about a lot of things. You got a lot of good things to say. You have an opinion. All I could say because I listen to your show and I'm like, this guy's fucking crazy. I love it. But you obviously, started out as a gossip columnist and then you hosted Mysteries and Scandals, which I told you scared the shit out of all of us for some reason in the late 90s, early 2000s. Howard Stern's, I like to say Howard Stern's sidekick. Is that a good?
Well, I mean, I did Howard Show about 100 times. For a month before they picked Artie, after Jackie left the show, they were auditioning people to sit in the chair.
Right.
And I sat there for a month. Jimmy Kimmel had a shot. A bunch of guys had a shot. And then I smacked Stuttering John, and apparently I lost the gig. Went to Artie, and he was phenomenal for 10 years. So I got no complaints there. But yeah, I did tons of stuff with Howard.
One of the things about you that I love is that you've done, and I told you this last time, two of my favorite things in the world. You were in a Rocky movie, and you were on Howard Stern. Now, I'm not a fan of Howard Stern anymore. We're going to get into that really quick. In a half hour, we're going to do the show. But, I mean, those are pretty big things, AJ. You should be proud of that shit. That's cool.
I am. I mean, in this business, show business, whatever, show business adjacent, whatever you want to say, I've been in and out of it. It's more fun being in it. But I look back on those things I've done, and I get a kick out of it. I definitely get mileage out of it. Those are great memories. I mean, being with Stallone, I don't think, I know I've never done anything that topped that.
Does it get any better?
A phenomenal time. Phenomenal.
It's amazing. I mean, only you know what it's like behind the scenes, and I'd love, if we had all night, I'd ask you for stories, but I guess we don't have any time for that.
No, he's a real regular guy. He's as smart and as brilliant as he is. You have to understand, I'll give you a quick story. When I met him first in 1995, I went out to his place in Miami when I was a journalist. He needed help with some bullshit he was going through. And I went to go see him, spent the day with him. And this is when he wasn't getting a lot of work. He was doing movies that people weren't liking.
Right.
Nobody wanted another Rocky. We were talking about that. He took me around his house, and I saw the statues in the backyard. He had Rocky, he had a Rambo statue. He took me in his writing room, and he's like, this is where I do all my, where I sweat. This is where I do all my writing.
That's amazing.
And I remember I said to him, why do you even bother, man? You're Rocky and you're Rambo. You did it.
Yes.
And he said to me back then, he says, no, I got a lot more inside me. I got a lot more. And he even said, this is why it's so cool. He even said to me in 95, there's a lot of stuff in the basement.
In the basement, I was going to say that.
He used that in 95.
Yeah.
And it ended up in Rocky Balboa all those years later.
It's so amazing. Like, I don't look at celebrities. I don't really care, especially doing this for 10 years. I've met so many people. I've talked to so many people. But I wouldn't be able to talk if I spoke to him because I was born the year Rocky came out in 76.
Right.
And I mean, I've watched all those movies, and again, 6 is like my favorite. And
yeah,
I've watched.
I think it's after 1. I go 1, 6, 2. I think the way I go with it.
I'm kind of a 3 guy because that's when he had all of his wits about him when he was cool. You know.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, that's awesome, and I always kind of bust your balls with your two infamous lines. What is it? It's good to give.
Oh, God. Good to give is a good one. That was an ad-lib. I ad-libbed a couple of lines that he kept, and,
Right.
we ended up having, he gave me a lot of shit on set because I spent 4 weeks with them in the movie. Vegas, L.A., Philly, and I was gone for about 2.5 weeks, and I flew back to Philly to do that scene in the restaurant. And these guys had been working every day, busting their ass, and I show up 2.5 weeks without working.
Right.
And I sit down in the restaurant, very packed. Everybody in the restaurant was friends of his, relatives of his, and in acting, you got the setup was there's a camera behind my shoulder. That's his close up, right? So you don't want to fuck up the movie star's close up. So he's doing his lines. And he's ad-libbing and he's adding shit in. So I decided a couple times to ad-lib myself. And he cut really quick. He's like, "What are you doing?" I said, no, nothing. I'm just, having fun. No, so you do what I wrote. I said, okay.
Oh, shit.
And we go again. And again, I said something off that I kind of ad-libbed. And he goes, cut. He stood up. He was pissed off.
Whoa.
People are looking at me. He says, take 5. And he walks away. He goes, do you know your lines? I said, yeah. Now, this is after 3 weeks of us getting along, smoking cigars after the shoot.
Because he takes it seriously.
Yeah, I know the lines. And he walks away, and my family's there watching me. So my partner in the scene, Lou DiBella, he says to me, how are you going to finish this, man? Because he was shaking, and my hands were shaking, too.
I got the goosebumps just listening to this. This is awesome.
I said, we'll do it. He comes back. I finish the scene. Then they do the reverse, where it's my close-up and the camera's behind him. And then all he did was ad-lib and say the stupidest shit. But, that's a movie star.
I'm into a minute.
Like you can see I laughed really hard when I say, what do you recommend?
Yeah.
But he just puts in, it's all edible.
It's all edible.
In the scene, he would say, try the fried asshole, try the shark's balls. He would just say anything.
Wow.
And
then, minuscule little, is that all ad-lib when he's like, because it seems like he doesn't, that's not a line. When he's like,
No,
like,
that's a line. The minuscule fight, that's a line. Yeah, that's a line. He even, he's really particular because he's a good writer. He's a really good writer. He's
amazing.
But he taught me a lesson. He said, look, you wouldn't come to Philly and talk to me, Rocky Balboa, the way you talk to Mason Dixon.
Right.
You got to understand. He really, I didn't think of it that way. And what he did was he knocked me down a few pegs, and he kind of humbled me. And then the scene went fine, and I got to hand it to him. And after the scene ended,
he's amazing.
He said to me and my family, he said, I gave him shit, but he could take it. If I'd done that to Milo Ventimiglia, he would have been in this trailer for a night crying.
No, and AJ, and again, I don't kiss people's asses, but you did it. I told you this 3 times. You did such an amazing job. You really were an integral part of that movie.
Thank you.
Like
fun.
I love when you said, and if not for nothing, you got news stories to tell. It was such a sarcastic asshole thing to say. Now, was that ad-libbed? I've always wanted to know that.
News stories, no, that wasn't ad-libbed. The only other ad-lib in the scene was when I turned to Lou and I said, imagine if this guy we fought him.
Hey, it is prime, yeah.
Killed him. That was an ad-lib.
Yeah.
I had an ad-lib early in the gym when I was yelling at Mason Dixon. At the end of the scene, I said to Lou, I should have stuck with racehorses. They got more brains than these guys.
Yeah,
and Rocky Stallone said, I love that, but they'll kill me. They'll never leave it in. If you make black people are dumber than horses, I can't leave it in.
And then when you said to him, don't get all tough. I'm not going to do this in front of all your friends.
Yeah. That was an ad-lib, too. He let me have fun in that scene because he wasn't in it. And he liked what I did. Because, I don't know if I told you.
So
Mason Dixon's whole team was supposed to be black. When he auditioned guys for that part,
right,
all these black guys came in with chains and suits and fucking hats, and then it wasn't working. So then he reached out to me and he said, yeah, I want like an Italian East Coast kind of sleazy guy, money guy.
Right.
But it was supposed to be all black because I'm the only white guy in that crew.
Yeah, but they had Lou DiBella too, right?
Well, yeah, but Lou's not in the crew. Lou's like an independent promoter. But I'm like Mason's corner man. All his guys, his entourage was all black, and I'm the white guy that that kind of runs with him and is on his manager.
It
was supposed to be a black manager, but he changed it.
You did such a good job because it was such a different tempo. It was all Rocky, Mickey. It was just it was more of a, can you believe now it was 15 years ago, right?
No, I can't. It's the last movie I've done. How do you think I feel?
Well, I mean, I wish and it's funny because I interview so many people that have done like really big movies. I'm not tooting my horn, but in 10 years I have, and they tell me stories and I'm like, oh, even Goodfellas. And my last guest was, Frankie Carbone. And he told me 2.5 hour show from a year and a half ago. He told me about the scene, and he almost ruined the whole what's so funny about me. He just right before they started laughing, he almost stood up and said, "Fuck this, I'm out of here," because it was ad-libbed. Only Pesci and only Liotta knew about it. But
I'll tell you, the greatest thing about I stayed in Philly for a few days, and it was the end of the shoot.
Right.
And the famous scene where he's going to run up the steps with the dog, they saved that for the last scene.
And it started snowing.
Sly wanted to do it because it was supposed to snow. He wanted to run up the steps in the snow. And all day, it was not snowing. It was not going to snow. The forecast was no.
Right.
And the producers are looking at their watch. They're going, Sly, we're burning money. Let's just shoot it.
Yep.
And he kept saying, it's going to snow. It's going to snow. And I'm telling you, they sit there with that setup for hours, and finally, fucking snow starts coming down. Just like he said, everybody gets in their places. He does the move. He runs up the steps, the whole thing. And then when it ended, he sat down, because that was the last scene of the movie.
That was
last
it.
shot.
That was it.
And he sits down on the sidewalk, and he wasn't crying, but he was really like he was hurt.
I have the chills.
He was hurt that it was over, and he said, "I can't believe Rocky's done."
I have the chills.
And, people got teary-eyed and cried, and then somebody said, "Hey, you never know, you might do something else." And at the time, no one thought there'd be a Creed or a Creed 2.
And I was against it, AJ. I was against it, but after watching the second movie, I literally cried at the end of that movie.
I'm not a Michael B. Jordan fan, so I'm not a Creed fan. I'm happy for Sly,
right?
But I don't care for Michael B. Jordan. I just don't.
But regardless,
he's a fucking uppity black kid who thinks that blacks don't get their fair shake.
Oh, another one.
This fucking kid was plucked out of nowhere and put in a franchise that's made billions, and he's going to complain about work. Go fuck yourself.
You're the new Rocky. I mean, that's one of the most famous things in the world, you know. Yeah. But like what I was saying is, and we'll get away from this because I could do this all night with you, but even interviewing all these people in all these movies, just your parts to me is just the most important interview. Like, because it's just so cool that you were part of that. And I'm not going to keep jumping on it, but I'm really excited.
I agree.
And you really should be proud of that.
I really am. Thank you. It really, of course, I'd rather be in that movie than have my name on the Declaration of Independence.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
That's how much I feel about that.
That's a great point. That's what I mean. Like, fuck the fact that you haven't been in movies since then. Who cares? You are iconic. It's good to give.
Yeah,
I
know, man. It means a lot. It really does. It doesn't go away. It's gigantic.
So that's why you're a fratello from LA now, originally from New York, and I'm jealous of you. I'm not jealous of anybody. I am jealous of you because you were on Stern and you were on Rocky. Leave it at that. So last time we talked, I didn't read it. I don't read books, but if you send me one, by the way, you could see your picture every time I do my show. It's right behind me. You'll see it.
Oh yeah,
on a thing. I appreciate it. You said keep punching, but the book. What just really quickly. Why?
74 and Sunny. I wrote a book about my summer in 1974 where. Growing up on Long Island, I had a wonderful Italian family, you can imagine. But my father's brother was a doctor. He had two sons. One was 19 and 20. He was gay, and he left home. The second son was 10, and he was showing signs that he was gay as well.
Okay.
So my uncle panicked, and he called my father and said, and the whole book is based on this phone call, can you take in... His name was Gino. Can you take care of my son for the summer? Maybe you'll toughen him up. Because my house was crazy. It was like a fucking opera. Fights, Playboy magazine, stickball, football. And my father said, sure, bring Gino here. So Gino stayed with us for the summer. His father thought, and my father thought, we could change him and make him straight. Obviously, that didn't happen.
Old school.
He changed us into being very accepting of what he was like.
Of course.
And the book... It got optioned. I wrote the screenplay. There's a direct. George Gallo's attached to direct. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's all good news.
That's
but
great.
It takes forever in this town.
Well, you can get it on it. Like, tell people where you can get it, because I'll order
You get it on Amazon. It's out there. Just go to Amazon, 74 and Sunny. It's a really sweet book. It's nothing like the kind of shit that you hear me talk about on Stern.
No.
It's a very sensitive and sweet, funny book.
And that's the other thing, too, because at that time you were on Stern. That was, what was that, the early 2000s? That was like...
2001 was the last time I was on Howard, yeah.
So you were late 90s, early 2000s, pretty much.
When I was on all the time was the mid-90s. And then I finally got kicked off in like 2001.
And why did AJ Benza get kicked off? Because you swung at Stuttering John.
I smacked him. I told him I was going to smack him. I smacked him.
I know.
Period.
You did it, and you got kicked out.
I mean, we're friends. I actually let him smack me back around 5 years ago on his podcast because I know it was eating away at him. So I did his podcast, and I said, "Let's smack me back." No. I said, "Come on, do it on air. It'll be fun."
Yeah.
And I let him give me a shot. It's all good.
And the good thing
back then it was a crazy atmosphere. It was a college fraternity being in that.
And there was no cancel culture and snowflake bullshit.
Oh my God!
I mean, Stern was wearing blackface back then. And of course he doesn't get any heat for it because he's a lib. But at the same time, what I like again about you is you're just some kid growing up in New York, and you just said Playboy, and you've been, how many times you've been to the Playboy Mansion? You've done a lot of
60, 70.
Yeah.
When I came out here and I had my TV shows and everything was popping, the mansion opened up again.
Right.
So you got to go. It was phenomenal. I'm more proud that I wrote for Playboy. I think 6 times. I had articles in there. I loved who wrote for. More than anything else, I'm a writer. So I love that.
That's
I got
first
my
and
words
foremost.
in there. But it's up. Look, everything's changed. Hefner's dead. The mansion's over. It just. I know years have passed, but I'm very happy that I came out here and was able to do those things and hanging out with guys like Nicholson and Warren Beatty and Robert Evans. It was, when I came out here, the shit that I did was so fun. Now that's just over. And right now, you can't be a man in this town anymore. Any town.
Celebrities, it's weird. Over. It's weird now. And just like you're saying, I'm glad I got to do the things that I got to do when I didn't get to go to the Playboy Mansion, but still the 90s, I was in college. I blew it the fuck out. And that's stuff that you really can't do now. It's not like you can't party, but just the things that we did and we got away with.
You can't talk to girls. You can't talk to girls the way we talk to girls.
No.
That shit's done. I feel that my son is 12. God knows what he's going to go through. The things that I said and the things that I said to girls, I was a real playboy. I had a ball.
I know.
I would be there'd be a SWAT team coming down my building right now arresting me.
Right.
It was a crazy.
Do you ever worry that someone's going to take a tweet that you made in 2000? You don't give a fuck.
I don't care, but you know what? If they want to come get you, all they got to do is listen to every podcast and find something you said, and I let it fly on my Patreon show because it's behind a paywall.
Right.
But I let it fly. I say a lot of uncensored things that I could easily be taken down. But I'm not a big enough name anymore where it matters.
Do you know
like the niche I'm in right now?
Do you know Nick DiPaolo?
I know. I met him, but I don't hang out with him. But I know his show. My show's a lot like his.
Yes.
My uncensored show. Yep. I say a lot of shit that Nick says. We're both conservative. We both really fucking dig in.
I've commented a few times, and he sees it and says thank you, whatever. But I just keep telling him, please, you're like all we got left. You and AJ, you're all we got left. No one's listening to me like they listen to you and they listen to him. But he's raw, man. He doesn't give a shit.
Well, Nick's got being a stand-up comic for years. He's got he knows what he's doing. He's really tuned up tight, and his YouTube show. It's very wonderfully produced, and they've got old graphics, and he really goes into it. That's the thing. He wanted to do that kind of show when he was doing the TV show with Artie way back several years ago on the Audience Network.
Right.
And Artie wasn't reliable. God knows, I don't even know what Artie is now. I don't know.
Artie's clean, isn't he? He's clean now.
What?
Artie's been clean.
I don't know. Well, if he was dirty, we'd have to hear about it because he'd be arrested.
Yeah.
But I don't know where he is. Nobody knows what
I haven't
doing.
seen anything. You're right. I haven't seen any posts from him. You're right. In 6 months.
It's so sad.
Right.
He can't perform. He might perform, but if he flies out of town and goes to a different city, I know him. I hung out with him. As soon as he's out of New York or in some other city, he wants to score.
Right.
It's just bad.
Yeah. Now, were you into? I'm not going to ask you if you did any of that stuff, but were you a partier?
Of course I did, man. Fuck, I did coke for years. It's terrible. And when I came out here, I never did coke in New York ever.
Right.
I came out to LA
because your father would kill you,
I'm
probably.
meeting all these beautiful girls, and all the girls out here were getting high.
So you got caught up in the scene.
At 1 o'clock, you want to go to someone's house,
yeah,
and you want to get high. And I started just having it in my house, and before you know it, I'm doing it every fucking night.
So so
good.
You lived the life, and now you're a family guy.
Oh,
I mean, you got. Yeah. I'm not going to say anything about the family. I don't comment on the family.
All right,
but
I got 2 kids. I'm 17 years married. My daughter's 16. My son's 12. It's the greatest thing in the world,
isn't it?
But I have to hit the brakes hard because my wife and I were dating for 6 months. Boom, she got pregnant, and I said, "Let's get married." So everything stopped on a dime. I was getting high with Rick James.
I know. I mean, I've listened to your shows. I've listened to some of the stuff you say, and I mean, one of the things you were talking about, you were hanging out with Tupac. I mean, you've literally, you've done it all, and then it's funny to see. And the good thing about you is you're a family guy. You really love your kids. You can see it on your social media, and you see all the things that you've done. And I know you were a partier and all that kind of stuff, and now you're a coach. You're a soccer coach.
Oh, it's the best thing in the world being a little league coach. When you have kids,
yeah,
you'll see. I never thought I'd coach until I just put my hand up. And now, man, my son's really good at football and soccer, and you see the videos I put up. There's nothing better. And I'm glad I got it out of my system because my kids have no idea. I mean, they're starting to know now because, believe it or not, some of my daughter's friends listen to my podcast, which makes me nervous.
That's not
my
good.
daughter doesn't know about all my crap.
Right.
But my daughter got, back in 2002, I think, I started hanging out with Winona Ryder. It's a long story, but we ended up kind of dating a little bit, running around for about 2 months.
Right
before I got married. And my daughter was a big fan of the TV show Stranger Things. And, Winona made her comeback in that Netflix show. And when I told my daughter that Daddy dated her, suddenly my past became so interesting to her. She couldn't believe it. And then now she loves to hear stories about my past. But for a long time, kids don't care. They just want you to be daddy.
That's a question that I wasn't going to ask you, and now I want to. Now your kids are older. Are they starting to be like, okay, who were you? Like, you did all this? Like, when did they start giving a shit? Like when they became teenagers?
Yeah, probably 14. My daughter 14. When kids in school start talking, it's LA. So sometimes their parents know who I am. And as a Little League coach, I've had parents, and I've coached parents who are famous. Like I coached Chris Noak's kids. I coached a lot of people who are famous.
Right.
So it gets around.
Right.
And I live in a very liberal town. I'm not.
Yes.
So I'm sure some of these parents are like, well, be careful of AJ, But I think like 14, my daughter started wondering what I did.
Yeah.
And I'm very honest about stuff. I really don't hold back. My wife would like me to hold back, but I think it's nice that my kids know.
There's no reason.
I tell them about almost everything.
There's no reason to hold back. You did it. It was you.
They're going to learn it anyway. It's on the internet.
Yeah.
The internet. They can go on the internet when they were 10 years old. They could read about me if they wanted.
But again, the craziest thing is things that came out of your mouth, just like mine in college, and thank God we didn't have iPhones back then, but just things that came out of your mouth on the Stern Show, things that came out of your mouth at probably behind the scenes at the Playboy Mansion. Back then it was accepted, but if they see something that you said back then, now you're cancel culture. Now it's snowflake society.
I know, but they're raised right, and their mother's a great mom, and I'm very open about the mistakes I made. I'm very open about the things I did that came back to haunt me or hurt me.
Right.
So if you stay humble, and by the way, my kids have been with me when everything went bad. 11 years ago, I had to go drive a cab and work at Best Buy because I lost all my money and there was no more jobs in this town. The economy shit out 12 years ago. So my kids were there for that. They were very young, but they saw that side of the coin too. They've been on red carpets, but they've also seen us have to sleep in my childhood home on Long Island. So they've gotten a taste of both sides of the coin of fame, so to speak.
That's amazing. I didn't know that about you. I
lost everything. In 2008, I had to move back to Long Island. Bro, there was no more work. I wasn't good with my money. I mean, I wasn't making millions, but I was making a lot of money, but I wasn't good with it.
And you
and
adjust.
suddenly I go back to Long Island, and I have to drive a cab 12 hours, and then at the end of the shift, I go to Best Buy and sell TVs. And get this, I'm selling TVs, and when the Rocky Balboa DVD came out, they used to put that
it was on the
TV, and I'm on fucking TV.
Oh God!
TV.
Oh God, that is amazing. Let me tell you something, AJ. Like, I just in a small way, I feel like I'm parallel to you in so many ways. Like, what a lot of people don't know too is, I had a great college education. I had a great job, out of college, all that kind of stuff. But if I stayed in that job, AJ, at this point, 20 years. I'd be making good money, really good money, right. And I'd have the wife and kid and the picket fence and all that shit. But I'm glad I actually left to become a cop, and then I did that for a while, and then I just didn't do it anymore. But when I finally decided to get into, I was living in Hoboken, and I was partying it up, and then I finally said, it's over. I was 33 years old. I was like, it's over. I'm moving back to the suburbs, and I'm just going to do whatever. And then that's when I went to broadcasting school. And long story short, I left everything. Because I wanted to become the next Howard Stern. And I had the ability. And I get it because I had nothing. I literally was living in Hoboken in a very expensive place. I had nothing. I was delivering pizzas. I was doing construction. I pumped gas. I was living in my college town too, because I had my friend had a place and it was cheap. And I was all by myself there, but it was cheap. I did everything. And do you know what it was like to go ring the doorbell and one of your college football teammates answers the fucking door and goes, what the hell are you doing? And I'm like, I got a radio show. I'm in the entertainment industry. I'm just kind of doing this.
No, I know. It's terrible. Bro, I would pick up people at the train station in Babylon, Long Island, and drive them to their fucking mansion, and they know me from high school.
Unbelievable.
From 1980. I know. But the thing is, at the time, it's awful. I mean, I can tell you what songs are on the radio. If those songs come on now, I could fucking
Exactly. Yes.
But in the cab, I started writing my book.
Right.
At Best Buy, I would write parts of my book on my break, and it's good to be humbled and crippled. Here's what I always say to people: think of all the heroes you love. Think of Stallone. Just think of him having this.
I always thought about him. Rocky. I thought about him. The back was against the wall. That's why he never wanted to get a job. Not to interrupt you, but he wanted to kind of be on the streets because that was the way he was motivated.
Everybody we admire almost everybody we admire. Sinatra was going to kill himself. I mean, it goes on.
I did not know that.
Everybody we admire has been there and had to be humbled and broken to realize.
Thank you.
Okay. I gotta change direction here and make something happen. So you're in good company. Because
if you live a safe life and a decent, you're just safe and everything's okay. You don't really get that much out of life. It's like the saying, the cliche, and every man dies, but not every man really lives. And just like Schwarzenegger says, and I have it downstairs, and I call it the domain of gain. Your strengths are not caused by. What is it? Your accomplishments. It's by your struggles. And everybody says that. And we have scars. We have roots, and like, I know so many people that don't. They've never been through anything. They've always had a paycheck. They always could pay for things. AJ, I had my neighbor's hose coming from their yard into my kitchen. And I was living in Hoboken like 2 years before. And I had to flush the toilet. I just sprayed a fucking hose into the toilet. Because I lost my water.
But you wanted to do what you wanted to do. You had a dream, and if that's what it costs,
exactly.
There are people now that have a lot of money that are sitting in a big house that trust me, because I have friends like this who never have to worry about bills. They got another house in Florida. They still to this day go, I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have tried this. I never tried that.
You need it.
It bugs them.
Look, I'm friends with you. I've had you on my show. I used to, and don't get me wrong, I didn't worship you or anything like that, but I used to say, I like that guy. He's fucking cool. He's on, and then when you came out in Rocky, but I got to tell you the truth. If I did not go through that, if I didn't do a weekend at 3:00 in the morning of what's called demo in New York City, where with your bare hands, you rip glass doors apart, you rip, every shit job you can imagine. If I didn't do all that stuff, because all I concentrated on was my dream. Because if I had a job and I was making good money, I never would have pursued AJ Benza. I never would have pursued any of these guys that I had on, for God's sake.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I'm hanging out with Richie Aprile in his hotel room. I mean, I can go on and on and on. You know way more people than I do, but you get it. It's people just they think they look at you and they go, "What the hell are you doing with your life?" Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
I have the balls to go after a dream. It's not easy.
Well, it's not for everybody. Some people just don't have that mentality. They don't have the killer mentality, and they don't. And also, they know that they couldn't handle themselves if they had nothing and had to split a pack of ramen. You know, they know they couldn't do that.
They would be hanging off the Brooklyn Bridge if they lost their paycheck. They wouldn't know what to do with themselves.
I know friends of mine who killed themselves, and they had money in the bank. It's not about that. People. You know, my best friend Chico killed himself maybe 8, 9 years ago now. You know, the guy was making money, doing this and that, but it was things in his basement, put it that way, that he hadn't done, that he couldn't do, and it got to be too much. So, look, when I was on Long Island driving a cab and working at Best Buy, I told people I used to walk to the deli to get a paper and a coffee. I had to get my Post and my news and a coffee. And things were so bad that now I had kids, so I wasn't going to jump in front of a car.
Yeah.
But I swear to God,
I get it.
I would kind of walk closer to the street.
I get it.
Than I needed to. You know what I mean? Like I was that fucking pissed off, and then that, you know,
I had
back and sleep in your childhood bed when you're.
I totally get it. I get it, and I had the mentality of, if my car happens to hit a bump and I go over a cliff, maybe it's not so bad. But it wasn't any type of suicidal. But people don't understand when shit gets really bad in your life and you're struggling for money and you're this, that, and the other thing. And again, it's because of where I was in my life and what I decided to do. They don't realize how mentally strong you have to be to deal with that.
Well, the only thing that makes you change is kids don't care what daddy does for a living.
Right.
Kids need to eat. They need clothes. They want to see you home. So no matter what I did, when I had children, the first thing that struck me, because before kids, I lived like a crazy bastard. I didn't care. I mean, I used to write notes before I went to bed that this is the night that I'm going to die. I partied so much that if I die, it's because I did A, B, C, D. But once you have kids, you go, now I'm not allowed to die anymore.
No.
Can't die. Can't go 90. Can't fucking take this drug.
I have a dog, and I felt that way. I had a dog, you know, the dog we were talking about.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I can't leave this dog. I can't. So, listen, I get it. And, you know, I don't know how old you are exactly, but I kind of still have faith.
58.
So you're 58, and that means you had your daughter at 41?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going 41, 42, right.
I'm 40. I just turned 44, so I still got hope.
You got hope. You'll meet a girl. Listen, the good news is if you meet a girl at your age, it'll happen so fast. The kid, the relationship, boom, boom, boom.
I know,
and
right?
Not for nothing, you may meet a chick with a kid or two, and that's wonderful. Look, when I met my wife, she had a 12-year-old son from a boyfriend, and I raised that kid. He's 30 years old now, and that's always good too. Nothing wrong with that.
That's the problem, though. At my age, you either meet a girl who's a little older, or even my age, that say, okay, I don't want kids, or I have kids, or I'm divorced, or you meet a 30-year-old who's still like, I live with my mom and my dad.
Yeah, they fucking, the influencers, they take selfies. I would kill myself.
I can't take, there's really, it's, AJ, whenever you, and I'm sure you don't, because your wife's beautiful, you got a beautiful family, but if you ever lie in bed and doubt it for a second and go, oh God, I want to go back to, it's not the same.
No, I know.
It's
I know.
not.
I do know.
It's a weird society out there, man.
I love women. And I always, you know, my wife is cool with me. You know, I have female friends, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I look at what's out there. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, and I see these beautiful girls, but they're impossible to be with. I'd rather have a 50-year-old whose kids are gone than a hot 35-year-old. I swear to God.
But it's all fake.
If she's on Instagram with her selfies, I don't want to know her. I don't want to know her.
It's so hard now. But listen, before you go, I just want to ask you this question because this is one of the things I wanted to get into, and I know I don't want to keep you farther than you want to go. But give me your take, because I'm losing my mind. I want to take a stand. I even want to kind of say some controversial shit now. What's your take on all this stuff going on now? That
Well,
that this small percentage
you
of
should
people.
say what you got to say, because pretty soon I'm not sure you'll be able to say it. What's happening? We've got such a cultural civil war on our hands, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. It's such a goddamn shame what happened.
AJ, where'd they come from?
It's all because the left, the liberal left, the progressive left, the things they want for America are nothing like what this country was built on.
No.
And if you don't vote Trump, you clearly don't care what America turns into, because it's going to be a hellhole worse than it is now.
Do you see New York City? I mean, the guy got shot in the head in front of his daughter.
It's over.
It's over.
That city's gone. That city's going to be like New York in 1973. That's how bad it is right now.
I never even knew. I just learned this. I never knew with Dinkins it was bad. I didn't know it was bad in the 70s.
Forget about it, man. It was so bad. Listen, first of all, but if you look at what Black Lives Matter, and listen, I've had black girlfriends. My son is black. My stepson's black.
Yeah,
I'm not racist.
Not a racist bone in my body and yours.
I don't. Listen, have I used the N-word? Absolutely. I'm not going to be a fucking liar about it.
Right.
But I'm just as critical with Italians as anybody else.
Yeah.
The point is, if you read Black Lives Matter's mission statement, they want to dismantle
everything.
The patriarchal system we've had with a father and a mother. They don't believe in that.
And you see how
it's so far beyond blacks being treated badly
bullshit.
by police.
Because
it's so deep.
What about the black guy that got killed in front of his daughter? How come there's no rioting because he got shot in the head? The poor guy.
They don't care about black lives. They care about
it's an agenda.
Change America's heritage.
And aren't they?
It's everything.
And then what's your take on Biden, really quickly? I mean, is this the biggest joke in the world?
Biden is shot.
AJ, he can't put a sentence together.
He can't even talk. It's actually sad.
It is.
I know that running him and the vice president he chooses is probably somebody that would step in within 8 months. Ugh. But I'll tell you, I was nervous for a while, but the more I see Biden speak, I think clearly once they get on stage and have these debates, and if America crumbles deeper into this horrible situation,
they're going
to look for a strong man. You want to turn to daddy. You want someone who's got balls. That ain't Biden. It's going to be Trump, and it's not even going to be close when he wins.
Now, last question, I'm sure you're going to say yeah. Did you know Trump? Did you ever meet him?
Oh, my God. We had the same girlfriend. I threatened to kill him on Howard Stern.
Oh, Jesus.
Go to YouTube and look up AJ and Donald Trump's fight on Howard Stern.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I know him. I'm friends with him now, but for years I hated him. I know him 27 years.
Wow.
I've been to Mar-a-Lago and everything. I've flown on his helicopter, you name it.
I told you, you don't remember, but I had Chauncey on my show, Chauncey Hayden.
Yeah, I know Chauncey.
And I know he knew him and stuff. And Chauncey actually lives in Ireland. He actually is a good guy. He moved to Ireland to be with his daughter. It's really commendable.
He was with me the day he told me there's a girl I had sex with. She's going to have a baby. She moved to Ireland.
Right.
One night stand. And I told him, we sat in a restaurant on Bleecker Street, and I'd already had my daughter. And I said, Chauncey, you got to go. You got to get your daughter. You can't.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Knowing you got a kid around the world. And ever since then, I'm very proud of him for what he's done. He's changed his whole life.
You see his videos?
That kid.
You see his videos?
It's amazing.
She's beautiful, and he plays he's such a good dad. I'm really, I know Chauncey. I'm really proud of him. I look at it, and I think he's awesome for it. But
it just goes to show that's all that matters in the end. Is a child that you love. You'll do anything for it.
Right.
And that's it.
All right, AJ. I can go on all night with you, but this was awesome. Thank you so much. I will talk to you again. I always want to keep in touch with you.
Sure.
If you ever come out to New York, look me up. Give me a call. Text.
My family used to be there, but now they moved to Chicago, so I don't know if I'm coming to New York again. But if I do, sure, I'll ring you up.
Would you consider leaving LA?
No. Well, yes, leaving LA
because of the shit that's going on.
Be New York. Yeah, if anything, I'd go to Chicago. I'd go to Illinois. The suburbs of Chicago to be with my sister, my nephews, and his new kids.
Okay.
I want to get the fuck out of LA. It's nonsense. It's horrible here now. Horrible.
I will say to you, too, one more thing. And again, thank you for the picture. Where you signed it. It's right behind me. You'll see it.
Sure.
But I always want to tell you this, that when I asked you, and again, I had a lot of people on my show. I mean, my first guest was Beanie Siegel, live in studio, and he was Jay-Z, basically.
Right.
But you hit me when you kind of, I'll never forget, you said, you remind me of myself when I was at that age, and you really kicked me in the ass. You really kickstarted my career in some aspects in terms of my confidence, because you did say, I support what you do. I'll do anything. I'll call you. That's fine, blah, blah, blah. But you had such nice things to say. That's why I've always had an affinity for you, even though we had that little argument after the show.
Arguments are nothing now.
I know.
Happens in family. I don't give any, it's nothing.
No, we weren't arguing, but I never recall. I was like, that sucked.
Listen, people help me out. What people don't understand, and they need to know more of this, when you get to a position in life where, you never thought you'd be,
right?
You always hear people go, "Oh, they're going to kick you down the ladder. They're going to do this." I got news for you. As much as people talk shit about celebrities here and there, I had more people put their hands down to pull me up the ladder when I was out here in LA than you could imagine. I mean, and big people too. Like they don't want to see you fail,
and they did it for me.
Balls to live a dream. But I'll always do what I can.
But they did it for me. But when I was reaching out to them, they probably didn't see much of this. But now, because everybody's got a freaking podcast and the radio industry is dead, now everybody's reaching out to everybody, and it's saturated. It's bullshit.
Yeah, it's harder now. It's, of course, but just know that at every step you get closer, there are plenty of people who will help. And offer advice and all that shit. That's the way it should be.
AJ, I try to get to Sirius XM. I know people there. I know big people in the business. Anthony Cumia liked my demo. I mean, I've had so many situations. Nobody helps you. Nobody is really.
Sirius seems to be a kind of a network that I don't know much about. Anthony, I've talked to him here and there, but I don't even listen to Sirius. I don't even know what kind of audience they have. They act like they've got millions of people. I really doubt that. I really doubt it. I don't know who the fuck they got. Kumi's got a big show. Howard has a big show. It's nothing like it used to be. But I don't have Sirius in my car, so I couldn't tell you shit about it.
Dude, there's channels on.
You want to be there? I get that.
I want to be there because I'm sick of this podcast shit and trying to get it out there and try. I'm not part of this culture. I'm not 25 years old, so I'm not trying to get followers every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I know the problem with the podcast, and my nephew wants to do stuff. He's your age, and he knows a lot. He grew up with me. It's like the problem is just starting a podcast. If you don't have a following, it's so hard to get people to know what you're doing.
I know.
And if you ever want to earn money out of it and make it become a behind a paywall where people have to pay $5 and $10 to listen to you, that takes time. I did my podcast for free for 18 months every fucking day.
Yeah.
And then at one point I said, you know what, now's the time. We got to try it. And a month and a half ago, I launched another podcast called Politics is a Bitch. So now I got Fame is a Bitch every week and every day, and Politics is a Bitch.
You do that. You do that every day. Fame is a Bitch.
I have a lot of people who pay to hear me finally, but it took a while.
And I asked you, you'd never do like once a month, just do like the Luch and AJ show or something.
I don't have time.
I know.
Those things. Nothing against you.
No, I know.
It's nothing against the person. Stuttering John wanted me to do something. I don't have that time. My show is an everyday thing.
That's fine.
My laptop's in my hand all day. I'm always writing. I'm writing my third book, and I've got 2 books behind that. It's like I nonstop work. So if I'm not doing something for me immediately, it's hard to do anything else.
The hardest thing to do in this industry, I mean, I got a poster behind me and I got a million other signatures and whatnot. I got a pass. I even went to school for this. I got 10 years. You know what I mean? The hardest thing is not my accomplishments, not my abilities. I could be on Sirius tomorrow and I'll say it. I always said, and Stern's the best, but Stern's not better than anybody. He just got an opportunity, you know, and he became the best. It doesn't mean
he was the best broadcaster for a while. He's a really good interviewer.
Oh, he's the best interviewer. Yeah.
No one did a show like that. He was beyond reproach. For years, it was the things he was doing every day were, forget about it. Nobody was doing it. Nobody ever done it. So I take nothing away from him. But
now
people don't understand. Jackie wrote, Fred wrote, Benji wrote.
I heard that.
A lot of people wrote jokes for him constantly. I was there.
Yep.
I know how it works.
And
a lot of things he says are coming out of other people's mouths. But still, that's TV. Every comic you watch on late night, Bill Maher's got 10 writers. Jimmy Fallon's got 15. They all got writers.
But I know, and like that's why I always had to do all this myself. I mean, 20 different aspects, even from starting from just getting the guest.
That's how you get better. That's how you'll get better.
But who is?
I don't have writers. I do my own shit. You'll get better like that. And look, you got time. Podcasts have never been bigger.
Yeah.
They're only going up. So you just got to keep at it. Keep at it.
I took a year and a half off.
Just keep punching.
Yeah, that's what it says, and I look at it every time I shut down my show. I took a year and a half off. I just started again about a month and a half ago. My last guest was a beautiful girl who was on one of the case holders for Deal or No Deal in 2009. A lot of people, like what's his name, Randy Sutton. He's on Fox News all the time. He's a cop.
Well, why don't you do a show that's got your stamp on it, where your personality, more your thoughts, what you think, because like whenever, just from my experience, whenever I used to have people on my show, and as soon as they were on the show, my numbers would start to go down instantly. As soon as somebody knew that I was having a show with somebody else on it, they didn't want to hear it.
It's a great point.
They wanted to hear me talk about whatever was pissing me off,
great
whatever
point.
the gossip was. So that's what they know me for. When I could have you name it on the show, but my people want to hear me.
Yes.
Get in. Like I'm on Adam Carolla's show a lot.
He's awesome.
Every month I'm on it, and when Adam does his show, like the Howard show, it's great. Lately, he's been interviewing people, which is good for him. He's had Sean Penn, all these big people on. That's good for him, but I know his audience doesn't like that as much.
And AJ, you are 100% right, because I just thought of this about a week ago. This isn't the direction I want to go in right now, because it's not me. I'm interviewing somebody, and that person's talking most of the time. So
and if they're not captivating, then you lose.
Exactly.
If you're gonna lose, you're gonna go down.
And this phone shit.
Be judged on what you believe in and what you say.
But when I used to do it in the studio for 5 years at the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, and I was on like internet networks and whatnot, that was me. That was me with, I actually, after I modeled it after the Stern Show, I called them the Crack Pack. And I had like 9 people that would come in at all different times, and we would have sit downs and we would have bar conversations, and then I would have a guest the next week. But it was always multiple people. Like me and Chauncey were one-on-one. Me and Vic DiBitetto, if you ever heard. A lot of people.
Yeah, I know Nick, of course, yeah.
Tony, Vic. Yeah, I had him on 3 times. I was on AM. He got me kicked off AM because he said fuck twice or shit. But I had some really. Vic was my probably my greatest ever interview. The first one, because he was humble and I interviewed his characters. And then Tony Napoli. You ever hear of Tony Napoli?
Yeah.
Tony Napoli, God rest his soul. He died last year.
I know he is.
But I had him. Yeah. I had him in tears in my studio, and that's when I said, I got to interview people because I really am. I know what I'm doing. And again, I think Stern's the best in the world when it comes to that. And I'm not comparing myself to Stern. What I'm saying is that at one time, De Niro, people looked at him like he was a joke, and then he became De Niro. Well, now he's, kind of a snowflake with all this shit. But nobody's better than anybody just because of their position in the industry. It's just that they got the opportunity and they made the most of it. You know, just like in the pros of football, you can have the best. Look at Mahomes, $500 million. 2 years ago, Joe Montana, you would laugh at him to say that, but he could be better. You get my point.
Yeah, I know. So I'm just a big believer in, if I'm going to go down and the show's got my name on it, then I want people to fucking hear me. If those guys want to be popular, let Vic have his own show. Let these other people have their own. It's good to have them on once in a while, but I think if I'm going to turn on a show, it's because I want to hear Michael Kay talk about the Yankees. I want to hear so-and-so talk. Chris Francesa and Mad Dog Russo.
Right.
They had a thing. I didn't care who they had on the show. Matter of fact, I used to get upset if somebody was on. If they interviewed a scout or a manager, I didn't care.
Boring.
I want to hear them. So if you have a personality you want to highlight, that's what you got to concentrate on, and then you mold the guests around that.
Yeah, but I don't have these people on. I don't have them on. I mean, Frankie Severo or Carbone, I had him on once. I don't plan to have him on all the time. Like, Vic 3 times since 2013. So it's not like I'm doing this, but I try to get a guest once a week, once every 2 weeks. It's exhausting. But I mean, any day I'd rather have a show, not say rather, but I would want to have a show like with you like this to put your name behind my name than just do a show by myself. Like, I still always want to do the guest thing. And people don't understand, AJ, on the phone, it's awful. I don't know what you're doing.
No, it is.
I don't know if you're rolling your eyes at me. I don't know if you're just sitting there like, when the fuck is this going to be?
The phone, that's the one thing people say too. If somebody's in the studio, that's one thing.
Right.
But once they're on the phone, it takes away the quality. It doesn't work.
You and I sitting there, we both put our feet up on the desk and we would have a good time. It's not like the phone sucks.
I get that, but yeah, the phones don't work. It's not captivating enough for many people. But I think, like I said, if your personality comes through more than anything else, that's what people are going to tune in for you.
Right.
If you happen to have somebody on, that's great. But they got to know they're going to tune in to hear you sound off on whatever it is that week, that day.
Yeah, but AJ, you have a name. I don't. Even though I've been doing this for so long, it's like the guys that do podcasts now, like Corolla.
If you've been doing it so long, why don't you have a name?
Because I don't have a name. Like what's his name? Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah.
Joe Rogan started a podcast. He's got a great podcast. The reason why his podcast was immediately successful is because everybody knew who he was.
Well, no, I don't know if that's true. I mean, well, look, yeah.
I'm not saying he's not good.
Yes, he had fear. I understand. He was an actor. He was a stand-up comic. That helps a lot because people know, and he's got the comics all around him. I get it. I listen to Joe all the time. I'm not a big fan of every show he does, but I listen to him. He's the podfather. The guy's been doing it and making
he's
tons of fucking
he's
money.
amazing. But
$100 million with this new deal with Spotify.
Are you serious? Wow.
Spotify grabbed the show, but
and I asked why he wasn't on Sirius.
You can't even use him. He's so big. Adam Carolla is so big. You can't use those guys. There's 500,000 podcasts, and only 2 or 3% of them make money. Think about that.
Yeah.
So it isn't like you're going, oh man, everybody's doing well. I'm not. No, 99% of people ain't doing shit. They're just out there talking. So I don't know what to say. It helps to have a profile, of course. Of course it does. But what people like is somebody to have a definite opinion. They want to tune into someone that strikes a nerve, makes them say, oh, I feel the same way. That's what I was saying yesterday. They like that. So the more you do that, the better you'll be.
I get it. Totally. And again, Joe Rogan's really good. I'm just saying, all these guys, they had names when they came into it, so they had followers already. It's just...
Yeah, of course. Joe had TV shows. He was a comic. I understand that when a comic's on the road and playing all over the country and starts a podcast, whenever you could tell a room full of people every night, tune into my podcast, that goes a long way. I know. I get it.
That's what I want to be at. I've interviewed people from especially all over the country, but some all over the world in 10 years. And it's like, I'm not out there like people are like, oh, I got to listen to the Carlucci Show. Like everybody, I'm sure my pictures have been seen thousands of times and things, my name or something, but I'm humble enough to say that I'm a nobody and I'm getting pissed about it. When I restarted this, AJ, I said, I'm never giving up this time. Like this, I'm not married yet. It's full go. That's it.
Right.
So,
right.
Thank you.
If you feel that way, you'll make some headway. Just keep punching like that. You'll get there.
I will, and I'll bust your balls for some advice. So please,
of course,
please be available. Thanks, my man. AJ Benza, thank you so much for calling in. This was amazing. It was a great conversation.
I'll talk to you soon.
I'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Wow, there you have it, guys. AJ Benza, my boy. I love him, man. So many things he's done, and like I was telling him in the beginning, I've interviewed so many people that have done movies and, epic movies at that, but just the fact that he was in Rocky 6, I mean, I would have spent the whole night talking to him about that. I had goosebumps. But he's done a lot of amazing things, being on Howard Stern, 100 shows. I mean, come on, TV host. He's an author. He's this all-around great guy. Thank you again, AJ. I consider you a friend, and I'm privileged to say that. But he's right behind me, right there. He sent me a picture, an autographed picture. Keep punching. So this has been back for about a month and a half. Like I was saying, I've had some incredible guests: Randy Sutton, Lana. What the hell's her last name? I forgot her last name. Kim D. I've had on Joey Chaffee. He's a restaurant owner or whatever. It's all good. I'm going to keep continuing. Just keep, like AJ said, keep punching. And we're just going to take over. We're going to fuck shit up. We're going to take over the radio world. Now I got a ring light. And I have a microphone, and I fucked up because I didn't plug it in the very beginning. But I'm going to start. AJ is right. I'm going to start doing shows on my own instead of just interviews, call-ins. But thanks again, guys. Carlucci Show for tuning in. And this was a great show. We talked about a lot of stuff. We covered a lot of things. And that's it. I'm trying to look for a song to close out. I wasn't prepared. Oh, there you go. I like this song. This is Van Halen, Change. I'll see you guys next week. Stay epic.